Hi producers, TopMusicArts here. Today we're gonna compare two of the most popular digital audio workstations nowadays, Ableton Live 10 and FL Studio 20. The most used softwares for music production all around the world. These are the latest version of each though. We're not gonna say one is completely better than the other one, but we're gonna compare them as the tools they are. For example, if we compare a screwdriver with a hammer, they're two very useful tools, but for different tasks, one can be more practical than the other. Same thing happens here. Let's take a look at the layouts. FL Studio has a sort of a pattern-based layout. It has a sequencer here, a mixer window, it does have a piano roll right-clicking on the track, and then it puts up the piano roll window where you can draw your melodies, arrangements, anything. And everything is very well disposed. But it has a major issue that bothers many people, and that is the amount of time you spend traveling through the screens, the windows, when you are creating music. In FL Studio, you have a different screen for the playlist, the mixer, the patterns, piano roll, editing, and so on. And you can find that very time consuming. On the other hand, Ableton has a more minimalistic or straightforward layout, where some things are already assigned to the mixer, and you can drop your loops, effects, instruments, any plugin, all in the same screen. And you don't have to be traveling that much between screens, which makes it a little bit more intuitive. In this matter, I think Ableton wins. Next, we're gonna compare the automation features. Both of them have automation control, as you know. Ableton may seem a little bit more intuitive because all your automations are shown in each track, while in FL Studio you have to do more page navigation again. Also, you end up having a much more crowded view of your tracks. But to be fair, FL Studio has some more options for the automations. For example, you can have your parameter self-oscillate. I mean, you will find a lot of YouTube videos about automation tricks to do with both Ableton and FL Studio, so I will say they're even in this subject. Let's compare the plugins. Ableton supports 64-bit plugins only. However, you can use a third-party software called JBridge, so you can support 32-bit plugins too. It has a very handy browser and some very useful native plugins. While FL Studio supports 64 and 32-bit plugins, and it searches for plugins in more than one folder, so you don't have to install them all in one place. It also has more native plugins available. FL has been around longer than Ableton. But just take a minute to look at this plugin browser. I mean, what's better than this? No doubt FL Studio wins when we compare the plugin situation. Moving on, we can compare the MIDI. They both support MIDI controllers. Ableton Live has a less complicated way to set things up, while in FL Studio you have to do more page navigation again, to set up everything the same way you would in Ableton. And when you're a beginner, these kind of things can be demotivating. Not every MIDI controller works with FL Studio, and Ableton takes advantage of all the MIDI control changes like no other, making the mapping easy for most of the controllers out there. You just have to click MIDI, then the thing you want to control, and use your controller so it maps that parameter to that button or fader or wherever you need. In MIDI compatibility, I think Ableton wins. Both of them have ASIO drivers, and they suffer from latency issues, the same as every DAW. You can configure your interface and set your buffer ratio on both, but in FL Studio you may have some issues there. FL is focused more towards your latency being zero, sacrificing other things that may cause plugins to bug out or CPU overload. That's why you can change your playback tracking mode to mixer and adjust your offset to fix that latency. It really depends on your hardware and how many plugins and tracks you have going on at the same time. Since Ableton is meant to be used live, and as many DJs do, it has improvement in this latency situation. But again, it all depends on your hardware, so I don't think it's fair to declare a winner. Let's talk about the rendering. Both of them can separate tracks and export them. In FL Studio you may have a little more work again. You can export them individually, but you have a huge downside with FL, that is when you are exporting stems of your projects and you need every track separated, you end up having all stereo files. You can change what you need to mono but individually, and that's more time you lose from producing. As you can see, FL has a lot of options to offer, but if you need a mono signal to be exported, that's a huge letdown. In Ableton, you can render the master or individual tracks. You can convert them to mono, normalize them, and in Live 10 you can also add an MP3 version to be rendered if you need it. Although, to be fair, Ableton still haven't got any improvements on video rendering, but I will say Ableton wins this one. Let's compare the price. They both start at $99 for their latest version, but they offer different bundles. The full price of the FL is a bit more expensive, but when you buy FL, you can do the next updates for free, all of them. So we could say that's a win for FL Studio. And since we're talking about versions of the FL Studio 20, it's not 20 in like 20 different versions of the DAW, but for the 20 years anniversary. Overall, I think they're really good DAWs and have a lot to offer, both of them, and they've got a lot of new features than their previous versions. So if you can't decide which one to buy, you can download their free trial, do some simple production on each one and try these features out and see what that leads you. But that's all for now. We hope you can use this information to help you choose and leave us a comment on which one is better for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.